So, welcome everybody to the second hour of Mindshifters Radio, and today is Wednesday, September the 3rd, 2025. Hope you all are doing well today. And Michael will join us here momentarily. Anybody have anything they want to share? Any support we can be? We went early this morning with Arya. She goes to a Catholic school, and they don't push the religious dogma or anything, but they do, teach them about God and everything. And on Wednesdays, they have Mass. And today was a special Mass. The eighth graders of the school were giving the kindergartners of the school a pot of soil and some seeds to plant and things like that. So they called it Bloom Mass, and they stressed like you bloom where you are. And so it was really a sweet program. And so we joined her for that this morning and went out to eat. And we just got back, just walked in the door. So we've had a good morning. It's pouring rain, which the gardens are loving. We had our first monarch butterfly take off yesterday. So we've had like 15 monarch caterpillars. And so we're excited that our garden has added a little bit of taking care of a species that's kind of on the verge of being extinct around here. So that was exciting. So what's up for anybody? What's in your face? What can we support you with? Do you have any comments? Everybody silent? Hi. How you doing, Andria? What's happening?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
I do have a question. So for about a couple of years, for sure a year solid, I experienced these panic attacks. And I thought when it started happening, I went like to a focus of physiology with the car crash and what they're calling a brain injury. It was like the sorry, I've lost the part of the brain that is all child. What is that called again?
I'm not sure. Michael,
It's it's the back of the brain. Anyhow, it's the center of the brain, the part of the brain that puts you into a child state. It starts with an L. So anyhow, I thought that it was about that, but I'm starting to really discover that it's so much deeper than that. The crash helped dislodge these things that were kind of dormantly hiding.
Yeah.
And so I go through these states of panic. They're really intense. I even feel emotional about it because at the time it feels like
Breathing with you.
Thank you. It feels like it feels like dying. So it has this sensation and texture of like a kind of a dark shroud around my body, and like my cells are like I've been in a state where I've had all the breath where I wasn't able to get any breath in my body, and it's like kind of pins and needles, and it hurts like on a cellular level. And it feels like all of my cells can't get enough oxygen. But when I look inside my body, because at times I get to be able to see in my body, I can see I want to say dark energy, but it's not like negative dark, it's just dark. And my cells feel like they don't have enough oxygen, but they're also opening. And then it feels like these waves come, and they're so big sometimes that I actually want to just exit, because it feels so overwhelming. And I would love to know, like, what is happening, like I'm learning with the things that you guys are talking about, that healing crisis is, that it brings these waves, and it's starting to make sense to me that these waves are coming in and through. And so, Susan, yesterday, I haven't reached out before, but she just talked me through tapping, and it was actually very short, but sometimes they can be hours. And I just would love some kind of information around it. How do I support myself? How do I understand what's going on?
Okay, so two things. One is, you've been doing more of the right things. So you've increased your vitality. And just like in the worksheets where it talks about being willing to go through the physical, mental, emotional symptoms of healing. So when you've had panic attacks in the past, that locked energy into your system. So as you're healing and you're able to process that on the way out, it will look the same. It'll look like the panic attacks. But one thing that is, to me, is an offers hope is that we're told that God will not put more on us than we're able to bear. There is an automatic suppress mechanism that if you are not at a vitality to handle something, it will not be in your face. So if something is up for you, you can at least be positive that, okay, I'm vital enough to handle this now. Is why it has come up. I'd like to offer, I did a session with someone this morning and offered her 2 exercises. It was a little different situation, but I think it'll work in your case as well. Do you have a place that's like a favorite place to go? For this lady, it was the beach. For you, it might be out in the woods or out in a field. So close your eyes and go to that place and use all of your senses. So like when I was working with her, it was like feel your feet in the sand. Feel the wind on your face. Smell and taste the salt from the ocean. Hear the sound of the waves and watch the waves go in and out. So you want to bring in all of your senses and imagine yourself actually being there. Get reconnected to that space and breathe and just calm yourself by imagining yourself being there. And then the second part, and you don't have to do it at the same time you do that, but the second part that I gave her was at least for 2 minutes every day, maybe 2 minutes in the morning, 2 minutes in the evening. We're told that God's name, it can't be pronounceable in the original Jewish language, but it's like the breath. It's like, and it's actually originally spelled with no vowels in it. So it's really not pronounceable, but it's been kind of converted to Yahweh. So I said, okay, so when you're inhaling, do the Yah. And when you're exhaling, do the way. So it's like, so it's like you're saying God's name with every breath. And just do that in a calm space and so those 2 exercises might help you to bring yourself into a calm space when it hits. And neither one of them take very long just to do that. Michael, do you have anything to add to that? Kathy, I'm not sure what we're seeing. It looks like you've got your camera working. Excuse me.
So Andrea, for a starter, and maybe focus on what Jeanie just offered for a moment or two, and we'll all focus on that with you. So panic is a reflection of fear. One of the things that happens when we go into a fear state is that we go into a thing called sympathetic dominance. Basically, what sympathetic dominance does is it shunts the blood away from everything that is not immediate survival. Blood flow is shunted to the large muscles of the arms and the legs to enable us to fight. one of the reasons they call it the fight-flight response. Fight, flight, fright, fear, and fawning. When that occurs, there is a restriction of oxygen to everything that doesn't have to do with survival. So you're right, you are experiencing your cells not getting enough oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
There's one medical doctor who, in his opinion, and he was a back surgeon, and he has the best definition of back pain that I've ever heard. His name is Sarno. He has an excellent movie you can watch on Amazon or on YouTube, on Vimeo as well. I think it's $5 or $6. It's called Saved by Sarno. And he calls it TMS, Tension Myoneural Syndrome. His definition, and this relates to all emotions, but in particular what he found, and the last, I don't know how many years, 20 plus years of his practice before he passed in his mid-90s just a few years ago, he never cut on anybody as a back surgeon. What he did was he taught them that their back pain was unconscious rage, totally and completely caused by the mind, and totally and completely a physical experience. That when one goes into either fear or hostility, there is, or one refuses to allow the root of the fear or the hostility to surface, they lock it into muscles. Tension. Tension in a muscle, wherever that muscle is, and intersects with the delivery, the capillaries that deliver blood to the cell, tends to restrict the blood flow through those blood vessels. Hence, tension myoneural syndrome. Tension creating the physical response of cutting blood flow to the cell, 5% oxygen, and the cell is now screaming in excruciating pain. So one of the best things you can do to get that cellular oxygen back to the cell so that the cell isn't literally starving for oxygen is breathe. And at the same time, although in the presence of fear, most people don't breathe or have difficulty breathing, and I think one of the reasons is because the higher centers of the brain are also cut off from oxygen. The blood is shunted away even from the brain. That's why some people, when in fright, the other F part of the sympathetic dominant response, that fright literally shuts down the brain and no action can be taken. And so panic being a fear-based response, the first place to start would be, and if you have a history of it, would be to start to look at what are the triggers in the environment that trigger that panic, that trigger that fear activity, that when the cell isn't breathing properly turns into panic. And the most powerful, and Jeanie gave you a method for helping to use the breath and bring your mind into it as well, but literally the breath unwinds the energetic patterns that tend to lock that energy down. I'll look forward to, and I don't know if Susan has done any StillPoint work with you yet since you've been there, but I'll look forward to doing some StillPoint work. We'll do at least 2 StillPoint sessions during the Intuitive Development Intensive.
Yes, thank you. I do breath work through it, and I lay on the earth, but often it gets so intense that it feels like no matter what I do, it hasn't, it felt like as I was doing the things that it was intensifying still, for a long period of time, just through circular breathing, typically, like some really gentle breathing. And yeah, so I think what I was saying before is I wondered if it was the limbic system that was on overdrive because of the brain differences, but I'm not sure how much I believe in that anymore. And so I feel like
I'd
I'm
be
doing,
looking at the thought disorders. If you look back to the earliest times when you had panic going on, my take is when the sympathetic dominance kicks in and literally the cells start to starve for oxygen. Literally, it feels like smothering,
okay.
and hence the panic. So focusing on softening, breathing, and starting to look at what's the thought that's been triggered into activity that
Mhm.
probably ties into I'm not safe.
Mhm. 100%. And I have been working on through this inner child writing work because when I'm at home, I'm very triggered, all the time. Because even though it's low level, often, being at home is still held in my body as being unsafe and, like a lot of fear dynamics. So you're right with that. When I leave home, I feel way better. But of course, I want to be at home. And
So then you really need to start to pay attention to the thought disorders that you acquired in a home where you weren't safe and start
okay.
applying forgiveness to those. Notice that, what I just heard you say is if I go away from what resonates, the thought disorders of fear, or perhaps it goes deeper, terror, then I'm
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
But what you ultimately want to do is confront directly those thought disorders and forgive them, literally remove them from your structure. So you can
Okay.
be home or anywhere and they're just not there to be triggered into activity.
Awesome. So would that be the forgiveness sheets? That feels really good
That's
when
it.
you say that. Okay.
That's it. That's the core of it. It's
Okay.
literally
Awesome.
one by one, every fear thought that leads to panic, every thought of unsafe, every thought that might be, I'm going to be attacked, I'm going to be degraded, whatever the dynamic is, that
Yeah.
one by one you start to forgive those so that there's nothing to be triggered anymore. And whether you're at home or away, there's just nothing in there.
Okay, thank you. That actually gives complete relief of like, okay, because I have been trying breath and all these other things. And it's like, yeah, I never even thought about the worksheets. I feel like there's so many worksheets to do. So
I
thank you.
understand. I hear you. I'm with you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
So the other tool that would be useful, seeing as how you've got the definitive trigger of home, do you mind sharing a little bit about what the panic and fear was about related to home?
Um, I never knew what was coming because my mom,
Blindsided type thing?
yeah, like mom could be happy in 1 second and the next second she's got
Ah,
me by the
okay.
hair and all hell's breaking loose.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So another tool that will be helpful here is a mind shifter. So if you've got a pen handy, and you remember from the video when you did the personal code evaluation, there we described the mind shifter tool. You take a piece of paper, and for anybody who's listening, I'll just do a short description of it. We take a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle of the page, and on the left-hand side of the page, you write the mind shifter. And you
Yeah.
use that as a catalyst to simply get quiet. Your phone is off, you're in your own space, and write. And just let that, the way the mind works is through resonance. If I say,
Mhm.
don't think about the color of your car, what happens?
Mm.
In some way, shape, or form, your mind has to go to your car. And most people say, well, I'm thinking about the color of my car. It's like, are you sure that's thinking? I'd offer it's not thinking at all. It's just pure resonance. And so the idea of a mind shifter is to come up with the right resonant frequency in a statement that it will trigger those thought disorders into activity so that they can come to the surface, and then you can utilize the tools to work through them. So the mind shifter I would give you would be, as a child, I was always carefree and supported because my mom was always there for me in love and gentleness.
Okay.
Now, if I've got the right mind shifter, your mind just said, BS, who are you trying to kid?
Mhm.
That's crazy, or something to that effect. So you got a file on mom that has these fear-based thought disorders. What this mind shifter will do is resonate, open that file, and start to dump the content. As you dump the content and become aware of it, then you have the opportunity to work through it, and you'll be finished with panic.
Awesome.
And remember to breathe and use that exercise of remembering the creator with the sound that goes with your breath. Yahweh, Yahweh. That you're really tapping into that. Fit?
Beautiful. Thank you. And I notice how every time I talk, I cry because I feel afraid, like feelings of being seen and heard just wobble to the surface pretty intensely because obviously there's some fear in there around it. And I just want to say thank you for Sunday. Because when I shared, I can't remember exactly what I shared, but just being heard afterwards, I felt rooted into my body in what feels like the first time. Just
Sweet.
just from you hearing and then apologizing for my parents essentially who couldn't hear me in that merging hypervigilance. And I feel so like every time I push through emotions or walk through emotions, I mean, on these calls, the depth that's being held here, I am healing at such a deep level. So I just really want to express my gratitude for everyone for the work they do, and the beautiful depth of space that I'm landing in is having huge, huge impacts in my life. So thank you.
Thank you for saying thank you. And that's exactly what we're here for. That's our commitment. Our commitment is to do that for you, empower you so that you can join the team, so that together we create a critical mass of people that can do that for every mind, heart, and being on the planet. That's what humanity needs right now. And if you are up for it, I have another mind shifter in mind if you'd like to do a second one.
Yeah.
Okay. The world, my parents, and I have always delighted in seeing, embracing, and treating as meaningful and important everything I have ever had to say. And so once again, I'd create a space with each of those mind shifters of, clear your calendar for 3 or 4 hours and just sit down and let yourself just free flow. Let those thoughts, let everything open, and including, there's a bit of a challenge, at least as I perceive it, in the arena of inner child work. And so when you're doing these mind shifters, I'd invite that inner child to fully come out and to fully integrate it. If I'm talking to my inner child, I just created another separation, me and my inner child. Whereas the truth is, if I'm in pain, it's not that there's an inner child in me that's in pain. I hold a thought disorder from my childhood that's still operating in my mind. And just my take is, as long as I put that on my inner child, then it's a way I can kind of be arm's length from it and distance from it, rather than fully embrace it. As a kid, I realized I created a thought disorder that people, didn't want to hear what I had to say. And that's mine. I want to be the adult that owns that today. That's what I did. Not, oh, that child from way back then did that. So it brings another level when I let go of that conversation about, there's a separate part of me, then I can integrate that part of me, own that part of me, and recognize, yeah, that was me that did that. That was me that was subjected to that. That was me that was abused like that. And when I let loose of all divisions in my own mind about myself, then I can more fully embrace the thought processes of the parts that I've separated from, integrate, and then the parts that no longer serve, throw them away. The thoughts that no longer serve, okay, I'm finished with those. Yep, that used to be true. When I was a kid, that was true. Not true anymore. That makes sense?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Any other thoughts?
No, I just hope everyone has an amazing day.
We're on it, and we hold space for you to do the same. By the way, the other day when I came on the session, I did not hear the first minute or so of what you had to say about the encounter you had. I came in as you were talking about an encounter with a man, and I made a presumption it was, someone you were in a relationship with or whatever. I had no idea, and it just, like when Jeanie told me, I was like, oh wow, that just adds a whole other level. I had no idea that you were talking about a direct encounter that you had with Yeshua wanting to connect with you. It's like, wow, that's awesome. And it just, it redoubled when I looked at your face, and the way your smile was like beaming from you. It's like, oh, that's just so cool. So congratulations on that one.
Yes, thank
And
you.
and the next time he drops in to visit, tell him I'd like to have a chat if he'd come on over here too. I'd like one of those.
Well, there's been a beautiful unfolding since, and a lot of healing around it, for myself, around men, and him having a man form, And then a lot unfolded between Susan and I the other night, going to her house, and she has a picture of him. And he actually, in this picture she has, is the same features that my biological dad has. And how that actually affected me and neutralized a lot of pain that I had towards my dad. And then also seeing how that pain towards men I was placing on Jesus. And people say God, to me that's like the masculine principle, but I get
Right.
really, a lot comes up in me. And Susan talks about her love for Jesus and God all the time, and I'm just always like, I feel like sometimes this is a machine gun of triggers that come up in me, but I never want anyone to stop. I want to deal with it. But just such a beautiful unfolding has been happening, and I'm actually feeling very held in what, not the form of Jesus, not him being a man, but what he was
Right.
able to embody.
Yep.
And that has been like now feeling like a lighthouse of where I'm going towards.
Nice.
Yeah.
Our granddaughter goes to a Catholic school here. We're in a small town, about 45,000 people, and about half of the Catholic school is people who are not Catholic. It's like the most respected school in the whole area. And so we went to church with her this morning, and I always have to laugh when I was sharing this with Jeanie afterward, when a particular passage comes up where they read about, if I remember correctly, it was Martha, who's sick. She's got a fever. She's in bed. She's sick. And Yeshua shows up at the house. He goes in and he offers her healing, hands-on. And, like the male insanity that it's been around for so long. It just needs to be healed. But, she is so sick she can't get up. But after Yeshua heals her, she gets up and serves them dinner. It's like, come on. So it's this whole male insanity that's really rearing its ugly head in America again today, right now, in some pretty traumatic and tragic ways. It's definitely time to one, embrace any way that's impacted us as individuals, whether we're male or female, and to hold the space for that weakness that is called male dominance to be healed in men. That's just another issue that I think really needs to be handled on our planet. So opening a space up to put that in the hopper for everybody.
Yeah, and something else that I've felt very clear about, that if in fact Jesus was a man that was here, because there's so much symbology in, and what I mean by symbology, like, for example, the fact that he was 33 at some point in the story people talk about. We have 33 vertebrae, which is when the Kundalini rises. Like, there's so much body technology in the stories around him, but I know if he was here as a man, like in human form, I mean, and
Right.
he had to be a man in that time, because if he was a woman in that time 2000 years ago, he wouldn't have lasted very much time at all and wouldn't have the
Right.
freedom to travel and all those things, because as a woman you actually couldn't. So if
Right.
it's all true, he had to come in as a man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's some pretty crazy stuff there. Pretty crazy stuff.
I love that he had a lot of women followers, and we don't even know much about them because of the culture, but they were hanging right in there.
Yes. and particularly Magdalena, you know, the stories they tell about her, but I think they told those stories because they were feeling threatened. I think that the whole lot of that stuff about Mary Magdalene is made up because she was right up there alongside of him and treated by him, as I best understand it, as an equal with the rest of, you know, the disciples, which the weak need, trying to be tough guy man, putting on the face of being tough, you know, has difficulty handling that. So, but yeah, I think she was right up there with the disciples, maybe at the very top of the list.
Right.
So, how are you, Miss Susan B?
Oh, hi, Michael. I am really well in spite of a lot of junk going on all around. But the tools, I feel as if the tools are now part of my nature. And I'm just not going to go back. I mean, knock on wood, not going to go back to the kinds of upset and trapped feelings I used to have.
So
So
you're planning to go back to those feelings? Is that what I hear you saying?
shut up, Michael Ryce.
Why? Don't you want to be fed back your speech so that you can look at what it is you're creating?
Oh gosh, I don't think I'm creating them. I have to figure out another way to talk, Michael.
That's right. We all do. Because our speech precedes our creative process. And, you know, when you think of the universe as an energetic universe, then the focus of our energy, you know, Yeshua gives us a big clue. He says, let thine eye be single and thy body will be filled with light. If you talk to the physicists today, they'll tell you that matter is light energy solidified. Yeshua was talking about the creative process. A singular focus, let thine eye, let your perception, let your conversation be singular, and you will literally bring that into physiology. The thing to understand is that words are a way to direct energy, and it's the body of the energy or the body of the words that produces the literal and gathers. You remember the quote we used from Max Planck when he talked about an intelligent spirit that is literally pulling and creating a literal electromagnetic force that gathers electrons that produces this thing called the material experience. So the reason why I call everybody, including myself, on that, and you know, we've trained Arya pretty well in it, and sometimes she calls us when we, you know,
right.
are off base with our speech. But just really looking at, you know, I think what you really meant is you've done such deep healing in so many arenas, and you're really clear that if any of those layers come up again, you're going to just forgive them and keep going for functioning consciously out of love. I think that's what you were wanting to say. But when the mind still holds some unresolved aspects, that part of the mind can sneak into the conversation and take it over. Well, I'm never going to do this again. And when my focus is singular enough on I'm never going to do this again, then this is what's going to happen again.
Well, you're right. I can feel it already. Yep.
And so to me, just that we have each other to pay attention and feedback our and invite the cancellation of whatever that energy pattern is, and to get on track. You know, our whole culture is so negatively oriented about what they're not going to do. Oftentimes, I know I'll see let's say that there's a video. Unfortunately, they get too extended on a particular product, especially in the arena of healing, and about probably 80% of the time, I'll start watching that because it's a product I'm really interested in finding out about. But I'll turn it off because the conversation from the medical professional, and it'll be this disease, and then if you don't do this, there'll be that disease, and then this
All
will
right.
happen, and then that'll fall off, and no, no,
Mm.
no, no, no. And
Right.
and literally quite often a product, and I will write back to them and say, hey, thanks for that. I'd really like to know about that product, but the negative mind energy, the suggestion, the hypnotic suggestions you were giving in your video in order to terrorize people so they'll buy your product turned me off so much I'm not interested in doing business with you.
That's
I
so
write that
true.
all the time to people because they're
Mm,
just, I mean, they're just horrible, disastrous. And these are educated people that should know enough about the hypnotic state and the power of an
mm,
authority jamming words down somebody's throat that they shouldn't be doing it. But,
hmm.
that's the culture.
Yeah.
And there's always a construct, it doesn't mean that if somebody's got the ABC disease, that we don't need to talk about the ABC disease. But to say, to use the kind of suggestion that says, yeah, and when you got the ABCs, then this will happen, and then this will happen, and then this will happen.
Hmm.
All of that could be done with conscious language of, if you happen to have the ABC disease, one of the risks is this, and here's how we can help you overcome that risk so that you can throw that energy off and be healthier because you're aware of it.
Yeah.
I've actually in a couple of cases where I've heard those things said, if you'd like, I'll help rewrite your script so that it can be a constructive impact on every level, not
Mm,
just, your wonderful product, but your language too, because I'll tell you, in most cases, the language of the professional is more important than the product they serve. In many cases, doctors give people deadly poisons and they heal. They don't heal because they were given a deadly poison. They heal because they were given a high level piece of mind energy that empowered them to override the poison.
have they ever responded to you, Michael?
Never.
Mm,
Well, actually there was one. Actually, there was a gentleman back about 15 years ago, and he had a book. He was working with healing professionals.
mm.
And I had that conversation, and he sent me his book, and he paid me to rewrite his book in constructive language.
Wow.
Yes. So, but that's the only time I've ever had anybody respond.
Wow.
Like, mind energy. I mean, when you've got access to the Aramaic and you hear the opening words in the book of John, do not say in the beginning was the Word and the Word became flesh, but you literally hear him talking about how the creative process works. In the beginning is the mind energy, and the mind energy literally turns into the chemistry in your body and becomes your flesh. When you understand that level of how important it is, it's like, but the world chooses to remain ignorant or refuses to face themselves and too lazy to go in and do the work to clean it out
Mm,
or too fearful. You look at that group of disciples when Yeshua said, baby, you got to go inside and you're going to have to face yourself and do some work, and they just said, too hard a saying, who can hear that? And they left.
mm,
They were not willing to take on that level of work. And anybody who's not willing to take on that level of work, especially if there's a disastrous past behind them, they've already got the accumulation of disastrous mind energy, and I know where their lives are going to end up if they don't do their work. It's just like night follows day. Language precedes creation. Or as they said in I forget what book, and you know, the power of life and death is in our words. So joining you in standing in that space of clarity and conscious active present love, and the awareness that if anything, even the slightest niggle of old trauma or drama or patterns comes up, that you're conscious of it and you throw that sucker out and move
mm,
forward in a connected space.
mm.
It's where the real change happens, is in our language. Any other thoughts?
Well, I think I just practically lied to you about what a great state I'm in. I do use the tools constantly, but I'm always needing to use the tools because there's a lot going on. So that's more the truth. I just find them such a good companion.
And notice that, if you go back to the beginning when you started doing this work, notice that there was a whole lot more going on back then and how much of it you've cleaned up inside yourself and how the world is reflecting it around you. And the progress that you've made, the changes that you've made in a very short period of time. When you think that the internal and the family dynamics that most of us live out of have been being established for eons.
Mm.
Pretty amazing changes we can make, how quickly it can be done.
Tim and I are very focused on one grandson. You know him. He's
Yes.
Jacob.
Right.
There's another one, Charlie too, but Jacob is thinking he's a woman and is taking estrogen, and his partner has left him, and he called us in a very bad state, crying, saying he would go into rehab, he would give up alcohol, LSD, and weed, all of which he uses a great deal of. We got the contacts going. We got him in touch with a good place 3.5 hours toward us from Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, just having had the support of his family, he felt well enough to tell us that he's not going to do rehab. He thinks he can get clean on his own. And then he proceeds to post a lot of stuff on TikTok, which shows that he's definitely high on something.
I'm going to pull out, you can pull in. Yeah, I just wanted you to know.
Sally, if you could mute. Well,
So
at least there is languaging coming forward,
yes, exactly.
that he's willing to do it.
Mhm.
Okay, so he spoke about, and probably at the moment he was in enough crisis to go, I'm going into rehab.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as he gets closer, he rethinks it, but at least it's in his language.
Yes.
And he's languaging that, that's where all behavior starts in language for humans, or pretty much all. And
That's very encouraging. Yeah.
usually it's the external speech they hear. And then the external speech becomes the individual's speech, which he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that conversation will continue and he starts to do that inside of his own head when he's not talking to somebody else, but he does it as internal speech,
Mm-hmm.
and he starts to experience that conversation is reducing his stress, then he's going to do it. That's what will ultimately become behavior. So as much as you can, keep that conversation going with him about, yeah,
Right.
you can do it. You can do rehab. You can get free of this. And
That's great.
yeah, we're going to trust that you know what you're doing. If you think you can do it on your own, then we'll hold the space for you to do that. We still think rehab would be better. We'd like to, however, we'll hold the space that you have enough wisdom and enough guidance to do that, and we'll support you in it. And if he can keep that conversation going, that will turn his behavior around.
The trick is if he convinces us that he is doing it on his own and really doing it, then we would help him in every possible way. Financial help, moving home with his very loving parents. But we can't do that until we know that he is really doing it and the evidence isn't there. So he tells us, I don't want you to mention weed I don't want you to mention any substances. That's my business. That's not your business. And so we are holding the space and very, very loving, but we're not helping him in the way he wants, which is money. He
Right.
wants money.
Yeah.
Just want to thank you, Susan, for your courage and capacity to call yourself out when you were being a little less than honest. And now I can support you in holding him. And sometimes the pathway to recovery is it's full of fits and well, like one step forward, step
Mhm.
back. But like Michael said, it's another step toward recognizing his life might be unmanageable and he might need a hand. So
Mhm.
grateful that you were able to share all that at the end of our time today.
Thanks.
Please let me apologize. I multitask often when I have time off work.
Mm.
I go to work cleaning my mother's house, and I so sorry about the fumble in my
Oh,
read.
that's okay. That's
Oh,
okay. No big
Happens.
deal.
Yeah,
It's easy.
happens.
oh my
It's
gosh,
easy.
I'm so good with technology, and then sorry. Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
Michael, I want to backtrack I think I'm being honest now when I say the tools have helped me stay centered and detached from this phenomenon of my grandson. I feel okay in spite of what he's doing. And it's not
Right.
that we don't absolutely flat out adore him. And we said to him, our love for you is unconditional. It will never weaken or disappear ever, no matter what. And he says, only if I get sober. I said, no, it's always here, always.
So you might want to just shift that language just a little bit,
Okay.
because what he's going to listen to in that, what he's got brain cells for, because of the language of the family system, is weaken and disappear.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the language, I'd suggest moving the language into it's here, full, total, 100% for eternity,
Mm-hmm.
even if you choose to do the drugs. However, we're not going to support that lifestyle. You can
Good.
be real clear with that.
Good.
And that
Thanks.
if you decide you're going to do this on your own, you're going to get off of all the drugs, that's fine. That's great. And we are willing to financially support you when you do that. And to prove to us that you're doing that, you're going to have to pee in a cup every week.
Yep.
And then, you know, we cherish you, we honor you, we hold you in love always, but we're not going to support the drug lifestyle. So
Mm-hmm.
when you pee in a cup every week and you document to us that your body is clean, and and of course you'd need a facility that they actually force him to pee in a cup in front of somebody, because
Absolutely.
that
We've
can be
been
always
through
be
that
fake.
before.
Yeah.
Right. He
Yeah.
has managed to fool us.
Yeah.
So that's good. He lives very far away, so physically checking up on him is tricky. But yes, that's great. Thanks.
And I hear the layers that you have to go through. It's one of the things that I've seen help in circumstances like that is to language. You trust what he's doing for himself in his life, whatever it is, however he turns out. Like, gee, you've done a lot of destructive things, and we're going to hold a space of love for you and trust that if that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do.
Mm,
But we're not going to support it.
good.
But sometimes, especially if somebody's addicted, I mean, when somebody's addicted, it's because there's underlying pain.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, many times somebody has to hit the worst dead end where it finally is like they've hit themselves over the head with a sledgehammer often enough to go, oh, I'm about to break my head.
Mm-hmm.
And that looks like hitting rock bottom.
Right.
And so just trusting that he'll know what to do. And, unfortunately, that also has to face because of the dangers involved, especially in some of the drugs that are out there today, is that many people playing with those kind of drugs that much lose their lives to it.
No.
And that's a tough one to face.
Mm.
I would like to add, I don't think, now maybe they've improved the test, but the last I heard, they can't detect LSD or psilocybin if he's doing those kind of drugs. So a
Oh,
urine
really?
test,
I wasn't aware of that.
and they
So
may
thank
have
you.
improved them. They may have improved them. I'm just saying that a urine test isn't necessarily going to tell the truth if they haven't.
Mm-hmm.
So I would want to look into that if I were you, Susan.
Good
Good to know.
information. Thank you, Cammie.
Yeah, thanks.
And Terry Bowling has his hand up.
Hey, Terry.
Hey, Michael. This is, of course, this is a subject near and dear to my heart, addiction. And
Got it.
it's a beast. It's a bear. And one of the things that you hear over and over is, if somebody's not ready, it doesn't matter what you do. And when
Yeah.
somebody's ready, it doesn't matter what you do.
Oh, that's
Works
great
both
to
ways.
hear.
Right.
Yeah, when they're ready, they're going to do what they're going. They're going to be ready. And then
Mhm.
the primary thing that anybody can do associated with an addict. I'm an addict. I classify myself an addict, alcoholic, and other things too. Is that one? I was a number one expert at attracting enablers and convincing people to help me to go along my path of destruction. I went to jail 17 times, and until I was done, I wasn't done, and I worked my poor mother, and it was just horrible. It was horrible. It took a long time to clean that up. The number one thing, and got a son who's just now got 120 days of sobriety, and he
Mm.
Wow.
went through some really bad, horrifying stuff. Horrifying. Went to jail 5 times, detoxes and all that. And the number one thing I could do for him was attend meetings, do worksheets, and do all the work I could do on myself. That was all I could do. Anytime anything came up in me, that's the work. That was my work, and hold a space for him without enabling him, because enabling him was just going to kill him.
Yeah.
And it was ugly, and it's very, very difficult when you're emotionally entangled with someone. It's a hard thing to do, and nobody I've ever met has ever done it by themselves on their own. They need somebody that they can talk to. Anyway, that's what I got for you on that. And
Thank
of
you,
course, I'll
Terry.
be sending some
Thank you
extra
so
Good
much.
input,
prayers.
Terry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm.
I send you all the prayers that I can. Love you guys.
Thank you so much.
It amazes me when I think about it. I go back, when I was a kid, alcohol was just part of the culture. It's just a thing. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just
Right.
today, from where I look now, I've done a lot of research, written about alcohol.
Mm.
It's just mind-boggling to me that it's even allowed to exist in our world. It's mind-boggling when you look at the tragic results of it. It's mind-boggling, but it's what is for today. So we certainly are here to hold the space for Jacob and for you and for his whole family.
Thanks. Thanks for everybody.
And we appreciate the fact that you have trusted in us enough to take us into your confidence to be your support and really open that up. That's a big piece of trust to hand somebody. So I appreciate you
Mm,
handing that to us.
no problem. It was easy to do. Hello, Jeanie. I see you smiling there. All right, you've come up to the top of the hour, Michael.
And Susan, I sent Susan F. a message and asked her if she could send a picture to me of Yeshua, and I'll send it to you if she sends it to you.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, it is 2:00, so thank you everybody for joining us, holding the space for each of you to create the best year yet of your eternal lives as we change the game around our planet. Blessings. Bye-bye.